Welcome to the Hockey Writers Flames Faceoff, a weekly show with our top Calgary Flames writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from draft day to the trade deadline, our team covers everything that happens with the Flaming Sea. So get set, get focused. It's time for the Flames Faceoff. Flames Faceoff.
Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Quinney, and this is the Flames Faceoff, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. I'd like to introduce our panel today. We have with us Colton Pankew, Brett Krause, two of our writers with the Calgary Flames team. And we also have a special guest today, Frankie Benvenuti. And Frankie is here to cue up the Ottawa Senators game. That starts in a couple of hours here in Ottawa. And he covers the Ottawa 67s. I work with him on that file, and also the Ottawa Senators. And if that doesn't keep him busy enough, he's generally writing about OHL stuff and the Ottawa Senators. And I thought, Frankie, welcome. Glad to have you with us to set up today's game.
I appreciate the invite, guys. Always fun to hop on another show and talk some hockey.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you a plug. Everybody, if you're not following him, you should be, because he, through his coverage of the Ottawa 67s, has access to the Ottawa or Team Canada's, the World Juniors Brain Trust. He gets to speak with Dave Cameron, who's not only the Ottawa 67s head coach, but also he'll be coaching the Canadian team in the World Juniors. So through that connection, Frankie will have a lot to say in the next couple of months leading up to that tournament. So with that, let's get right into it. I wanted to take a look at the takeaways from the week for the Flames. And what a difference a week makes. The Flames have now, don't want to be too negative, but they've lost as many games as they've won. And although with the overtime losses, they've picked up some points, and they're still a 643 club in third place in the Pacific Division, behind the Oilers and the Ducks, but with the Kings, the Los Angeles Kings, nipping at their heels. But in terms of their record now, they've gone from top team, one of the top teams in the league, to say second tier. Question for you guys, Colton, I'll start with you. Have the Flames come back down to earth? And if they have, what changed this week with three losses?
I don't think it's time to hit the panic button yet by any means. I think that 6-game win streak was huge for kind of putting them out ahead. And then if something like this happens, they're still okay. I think the Montreal one was a big one. That one stung. You'd like to win that game. Obviously, the Habs are really struggling this year. But I think the 6-game win streak, I think they're playing a little above their heads, and then now they're kind of they've come back down a bit. But I'm not too worried about them. I still think that they're a good enough team to make the playoffs in that division.
All right, so nobody's throwing themselves out windows in downtown Calgary, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Brett, what's your take on what if anything's changed this week?
Yeah, I just think they didn't have a good week. I think, last week I said that they set themselves up for a losing streak, and here's that losing streak already. But yeah, I think the game against San Jose, I think they probably should have won. I think they were the better team for most of it. Game against Montreal, they weren't that great, but then Montreal scored the game-winning goal on a bit of a questionable penalty on Andrew Mangiapane there. And they didn't look that good against Toronto either. So I think their record definitely shows kind of how they played this week. So yeah, not hitting the panic button, but they'll need a big reset today against the Senators. That's for sure.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on scoring, and Frank, I'm going to bring you in here, but it looks like, well, again, I don't want to over dramatize. Certainly there's scoring. You've got to wonder whether that isn't a problem for them. They've scored in 3 games this week so far. They've scored just 1.3 goals a game. And even Sutter says they can't keep up the goal scoring pace that they set in the first 7 or 8 games, saying, quote, that's what I said a while ago when we were scoring 3.5 goals a game. It's not a sustainable number. Frankie, your thoughts when you look at who could be in net for the Senators? Is their goal scoring going to get any easier today?
It should, in theory, right? With all the COVID outbreaks on the defense as well, and I'd assume that we're going to see Anton Forsberg in net today. Like he's not an elite goalie by any stretch. I would qualify him as probably an average to possibly below average backup goalie, if I'm being honest. Like there's been games where he's come out and he's stolen the show and won the Sens a game, like he did in the home opener against the Maple Leafs. But he's also had those games where he goes out and it just looks like he can't stop a puck. And that's what we saw when the Sens played the Washington Capitals. Once they switched out the goaltending and put Gustafsson in the net, they gave themselves a chance. But as long as Forsberg was in there, didn't really stand much of a chance. It's not going to get any better with, the amount of players that are missing on defense tonight.
Okay. Colton, your thoughts on the goal scoring situation? Is that anything Sutter said there a surprise at all for you? I guess he's saying, hey, we're a bang and crash team, and if we're going to win, that's the way we'll do it.
I mean, I think that's kind of Sutter hockey to a T, right? We talked about it before the season starts. Tends to be a pretty low scoring team that kind of grinds out their wins and plays really good defensive hockey. I know last year goal scoring was a bit of a problem for them too. I do think that there's quite a bit of talent in their lineup still. You got guys like Gaudreau, Tkachuk, Lindholm that I don't think it'll stay how it was this past week. Again, how they were on that 6-game win streak, that was probably playing over their heads a bit, but I'm not overly worried about it yet. I think today's game will actually be a big test because, like Frankie said, the Senators have a lot of guys on COVID protocol list right now. They're playing what I would consider to be a fringe NHL goaltender. So I think this could be a game that they really go off.
Yeah. Brad, any thoughts on what the Flames can do about scoring to spread it out? I think they're keen on that first line. They're being checked. And I noticed that Mangiapane, Monahan, and Coleman are a trio. Thoughts on that line? Would that help? What do you expect?
Yeah, I think in theory it should. I think Monahan's still kind of getting off to a slow start here and just starting to get a little bit worrisome. But I mean, it's only been 1 or 2 games playing with Coleman and Mangiapane. So I think this is kind of the game where, with all that's going on with Ottawa, COVID related and not that great a goaltending, I think this is where they have to show that they're a dominant team. I think, if they kind of falter against this Sens team, that's, kind of a bad sign to continue this week. So I think right now their lines are kind of spread out well enough, but they're going to have to start scoring goals. So that's for sure.
Yeah. Frankie, any thoughts on what we might see, what the Flames may see from the Senators? Just looking at them statistically on paper, the Flames are the far superior team. But on the other hand, it's hockey. Anything can happen. You've got a lot of young guys coming up. Thoughts on surprises we might see?
Yesterday, this is a team that played the Penguins with Tyler Ennis on the first line. Like, they are so depleted thanks to COVID. But I think the craziest thing is they actually came out and won that game. Like, this is they even lost Shane Pinto in, I think it was the first period in that game too. So they were down another body. Like, they have so many players on this team right now that weren't expected to be on the roster at the beginning of the season. And yet somehow they still kind of have that pesky Sens aura around them. If you remember way back to when they made the playoffs with that, theme kind of going on. So I wouldn't describe this as going to be an easy game for the Flames. Like, the Sens are still going to put up a solid amount of fight, but they are a very fragile team. And I think if the Flames could get out to, a lead to start the game, maybe a quick goal, maybe, get the Sens in a hole 2-3-0 to start, They should be able to kind of put the game on ice from there. But, if you let the Sens hang around with you, they're going to be a difficult team to beat.
Yeah. Well, and hey, Flames fans can't forget last year, those losses that they suffered against the Senators probably accounts as one of the reasons they didn't make the playoffs. So, it'll be interesting to watch. Colton, a couple of thoughts on positives that they could take away from the Leafs games. I know it feels like a loss, but not really. I mean, it was close. Thoughts on the positive?
Yeah, I don't think I think Brett alluded to. I don't think they played great in that game. I guess the positives you take away from it, just they were able to get a point against a pretty good team on a back-to-back, and I thought Vladar was really good in net too. Obviously, there's been some question marks there, just given his he doesn't have really any experience at the NHL level, and I think he looked really good that game. So I think that would be the biggest positive takeaway from that.
Yeah, Brett, your thought on that? Positives?
Yeah, I think the same. It was just Vladar looked really capable against Toronto. I kind of thought they should have gone Vladar against Montreal and brought in Markstrom against Toronto, but Vladar ended up standing on his head for pretty much the entire game, like even stopping Matthews on a breakaway in overtime. So I think that's a big positive, is that, if you can give Markstrom those breaks and Vladar can come in and be more than capable for your team, that's going to be huge going forward.
Yeah. Hey, well, look, I'm not going to let you off the hook here. You wrote an article this week. Kylington has earned a top 4 spot, and lo and behold, against the Leaf, guess who shows up? I guess briefly, but it could have cost him the game, is the old Oliver Kylington, the guy capable of making big mistakes at any time. Do you think the Flames will tolerate, if the old Oliver shows up too often, do you think they're going to tolerate that? Or maybe they don't have a choice because they need his offense?
Yeah, I think, we definitely saw last year that as soon as younger guys started making mistakes, Sutter wasn't afraid to pull them out of the lineup. But I think at this point, it's a bigger mistake to pull Kylington out of the lineup altogether or put him on the third pairing. It's one mistake, and sure, yeah, it was costly, but I still also think the team didn't do enough to score more. Like if they're up 2 or 3-0 at that point, then that mistake really doesn't cost you as much. So I think, it's Kylington's been probably their best defenseman for most of this season now, and he certainly brings more offense than any other one on the back end. But I think hockey is just one of those games where you can so easily pick out one guy to blame, where, why was Kylington in that position in the first place, that he was trying to flip the puck out of the zone. So I think there's definitely a bigger picture there. And I think, he's still absolutely deserving of that spot. So I will stand behind my article this week.
All right. And, Kylington's one reason that Valimaki has sat out the last 7 games. And Colton, you wrote about that just today. Flames Valimaki vents frustration on being a healthy scratch. Just thoughts on that?
Yeah, someone had commented on it and I read it, and I agree with them afterwards. He's saying, if he's not upset, obviously there's a big issue there, right? Like, you want guys to be upset when they're not in the lineup. At the same time, I don't know if going public with it, even though it wasn't a finished transcribe, I don't know if that's maybe the best idea, especially with an older school coach like Sutter. I know tends to favor veterans already. That I don't know if that'll help him per se. But at the same time, I haven't seen the lineup today. I don't know if he's supposed to be back in or not. But I think his frustrations just came with, he had been held out for the last 7 games, and the play of Zadorov lately hasn't been great either, and he still hasn't been able to get in. So I see where he's coming from. I just don't know if going public with it was maybe the best idea.
Yeah, well, we're going to see. We're going to see, because I don't imagine Sutter would be happy about that. But let's talk about today's game, Frankie. Let's get into. Can you just set up for us? So COVID has really ravaged the Senators. lineup. What's can you give us a briefing on that? What's going on?
I don't think anybody new has gone on today, unless I've missed something. And it looks like they're slowly starting to get some guys back. But the lineup is still pretty destroyed. Like they've gone and they've signed Zach Leslie to a 1-year contract this season, and that's probably just to give themselves some more depth in case some stuff comes up. But they've also recalled Max Jeanette, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I don't expect him to play today. I expect the lineup to look very similar to the way it did yesterday, but they don't have much. Like they've got like Lassie Thompson on defense right now, and he's still supposed to be in the minors. They weren't expecting him to be up just yet. Like even now with, they kind of got through the Shane Pinto injury and they were getting back on track with that player there, but he's hurt again and he won't play. Like you've got Parker Kelly playing for you. You got Igor Sokolov playing, who I think a lot of Sens fans are really excited for, but he's not ready for the NHL yet. So they've kind of had to bring up their American League rosters. So I'd say that the Flames are really playing a mix of the Belleville and Ottawa Senators today.
Yeah. Well, old timers like me and Greg Tazowski are, we're taking comfort from this. Maybe there's hope for us. They're so depleted, but on COVID, Frankie, I think the Senators have gone to the league and said, hey, can we postpone some games? Because if this keeps up, this is going to destroy any chance that we had of a shot at a decent season. Where do you think the league's thinking is here? I mean, you're saying no, we're not going to cancel any games, but at the same time, you're clamping down pretty hard on the COVID protocols. I mean, when you don't they risk by continuing infecting other teams? I mean, what do you think is going through their head?
Well, what's going through their head is the almighty dollar, right? This is an Olympic year, and I think they're still having an all-star game this year as well, right? So what would rescheduling a game look like? Would you extend the end of the regular season? Would you maybe schedule them over the Olympic break? Like, there's really not much room, but it is a touch ridiculous to me that the Senators can't practice because of a COVID outbreak, but they can go and they can play against another team, potentially get them infected with COVID, and then they go and they spread that to 2 or 3 more teams, and then those 2 or 3 teams spread. Like, you're in a situation where if you're the NHL, you could potentially have all of your teams with COVID outbreaks if you're not careful. So I'm in favor of postponing, canceling, or even forfeiting games if it means that you can actually get the season done.
Right. Colton, any thoughts on that? Is the league handling this the right way?
I mean, it depends which aspect you look at it from. In terms of like the Olympics and everything, like Frankie said, it's tough to extend the season and all that. And I think, if anything, we've kind of seen from the front office, like Gary Bettman, Bill Daly, they don't tend to put maybe a lot of human aspect in things. It's all business related. We kind of seen that with this Kyle Beach thing that just came out, and different things over the years too. It's strictly a business with them. It's kind of the whole lawyer thing. So I'm not surprised they're not, but at the same time, it is. I mean, it's crazy, like the situation the Senators are in right now, where they have basically half their AHL team up, and it's kind of like, how much worse does it have to get before they do consider making a change?
Yeah. Brett, your thoughts? Anything that if you were the commissioner, you'd be doing differently, or is it just you're condemned by the pursuit of the almighty dollar?
Yeah, I think they should have definitely rescheduled, because you can just look at how depleted their lineup is, and I thought they managed to squeak out a win against the Penguins, and they only lost by a couple to LA. So, but I think postponing them would have been a little bit better, even if it was, creating a couple more set of back-to-backs for them, or trying to get them going kind of right around the Olympic break, kind of the start of the end. But yeah, just kind of for the, you talk about the business, and their on-ice product is not 100%, and that's what you want all your teams is to, have a good product on the ice. So I think, yeah, they definitely should have looked at postponing those games for sure.
Yeah. Well, switching gears here to another storyline for today's game. It is the Tkachuk brothers, Brady and Matthew. They're going to be facing off. Apparently, their mother is in the stands. Told both boys doesn't want to see them fighting or doing anything bad to each other. Rumor has it she said that, but Frankie, you wrote a piece, Brady Tkachuk's path to becoming Ottawa Senators captain. In your mind, what's the biggest single factor that led to the captaincy for Brady?
That's a tough one because I think there's so many different factors, whether it comes down to his leadership on and off the ice. I think one of the big things that made him the captain over Thomas Chabot, though, is simply the feelings of people in the city of Ottawa around Brady Tkachuk. Like, he is basically the Lord and Savior of the Ottawa Senators. Like, everywhere you go, you see Brady Tkachuk jerseys. I think people have just kind of latched on to him as, what it means to be an Ottawa Senator, especially in this era of what the Senators have become when they keep drafting players that are basically the exact mold of Tkachuk. There's just like a deep love for the guy. Like, this city was they were in panic mode when the season started and Brady Tkachuk wasn't under contract. Like, that, it's just a player that I think that, one of these days when he retires, the number 7 is going to be up in the rafters at the Canadian Tire Center, and he's going to go down as one of a fan favorite, much like Daniel Offerson was.
Well, I'm going to just ask you to comment on Matthew out in Calgary. Could he, from what you know of him, and Brady better, but could Matthew be the right choice for captain in Calgary? My view, I'm not saying he wouldn't be the right choice, but he sure doesn't seem to be the dominant leader on the Flames that Brady is in Ottawa. Thoughts on that?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're still working on a long-term contract with Matthew Tkachuk, correct? So yeah. Until pen to paper goes to that, I wouldn't even consider it. I don't think he'd be a bad option. But I think, I don't know if it's the same in Calgary where when you walk into the building, all you see is Tkachuk jerseys, and he's by far the most liked player. Like, I think that's where the difference is for me. You're picking a captain for your team for sure, but you're also picking a captain for your city in a way. And I don't know if Matthew is on the same level in that respect as Brady would be.
Yeah. Brett, your thoughts on that? Matthew's suitability as captain. I know it's conventional wisdom he's going to get the C on his sweater, but and my comment on him not seeming to be as dominant as Brady is, maybe that's the result of so many veterans, seasoned players on the Flames. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think that's a big reason for it. I think you got a lot more veterans on the Flames compared to the Senators, where I think, on the Senators, a lot of those young guys kind of had to step up. And I think if Matthew was in the same situation as his brother, he probably would have ended up the same mold as Brady. He is a fan favorite here in Calgary, but I think even more so if, the Flames were kind of a younger team. But I think the Flames should do exactly what the Ottawa Senators do and sign him to the big ticket and then give him the captaincy. I think that's a reason he would sign long-term, like a 7 or 8 year deal. And I just think that he holds himself accountable in press conferences and stuff. And I think he has those qualities for sure. But I think in Calgary, just with all of these veterans, it's not quite as cut and dry, I guess, as the kind of the situation with Brady in Ottawa.
Yeah. Colton, your thoughts? I know you fully expect him to be captain, but anything other than a contract problem that would change your mind on Matthew?
No, I think it's basically as soon as the contract gets done, whenever that is, that's when he gets to see. It's basically the same thing that these other guys alluded to. I'd be shocked if it went to anyone other than him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, who knows? Ideally, they'll be teammates on the U.S. Olympic team in Beijing in February, and I guess that decision will be made in January. But speaking about international competitions, Frankie, I want to turn to you on this one. Can you say something about the Flames prospect Jack Beck, who's playing with the Ottawa 67s and leading goal scorer in the OHL now? How excited should Flames fans be about him as a prospect, in your view?
They should be absolutely stoked. He's a 6th-round pick, and I'm almost 100% confident that if the OHL would have played the 2020-21 season, he would have been a 2nd-round pick, if not a 3rd-round pick. Like, he has the feeling of a guy that's going to break out like Jack Quinn did. He's a very good goal scorer. He's a very smart hockey player. I think he's been really, really good through his first 14 games. Now, of course, he's banged up a little bit and he's missing some time. And I think he's going to miss today's game in Oshawa, but it should be sooner rather than later that he gets back into the lineup. But, when we look at the stat sheet at the end of the season, I think he's going to have his name pretty close to the top in goal scoring. And, especially when you look at the expectations of what a 6th-round pick is going to become for an NHL team, if they ever sniff the NHL, it's a success.
Yeah. Hey, Brett, you're doing a Flames prospect report. Are you doing that monthly, right?
Yeah, about bi-weekly to monthly, kind of just whenever you get enough to report to the fans out there.
All right. So when's Jack Beck going to be featured in one of your reports? I don't know. Maybe he has been.
He already has been. Yeah, he was, I think, in the second one. Yeah, I had no clue who this kid was when the Flames drafted him, and of course he sat out for the year. And I think I remember even in an interview, Brad Treliving had said he had put on way more muscle than what was listed on the internet anywhere. So yeah, it's definitely exciting to see once again the Flames maybe hitting on another 6th-round pick. You look at Andrew Mangiapane, and then they also have Rory Cairns with the Greyhounds there, who was a 6th-round pick, who was top 5 in scoring. So it's exciting to see that the Flames are, kind of not quite hitting, but they're definitely getting some exciting talent in those later rounds, which is a good thing for sure.
Yeah. Colton, final thoughts to you on Beck. I don't know if you know a whole lot about him. Are you happy that he didn't go in an Eichel trade, or?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Like Brett said, by the time he was drafted, even just his numbers that season, it was kind of a bit puzzling. They just didn't look, like anything special by any means. But I know obviously last season he wasn't able to play, and he's off to a great start this year. So again, it's early and it takes some time with these prospects, but right now it looks like a really good pick.
Yeah. Well, Frankie, if you were a betting man, do you think he'd be we'd see him in at Christmas with a World Junior Team Canada?
Right now, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. We got to remember that he is just 18 right now. This is kind of, this is a 19-year-old's tournament. You got to be something spectacular at 18 to make it. And we're talking about a Team Canada team that's also probably going to feature Shane Wright and Connor Bedard. So there's a fair amount of youth there. From what I've heard, it's probably, it's not impossible, but it's going to be an uphill battle for him. And, I think that next year is really the year that he's going to have his big World Juniors chance.
Yeah. Okay. Well, everybody's going to be, and if you're a Calgary fan, you're going to be looking at this kid. Well, gentlemen, thanks very much. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but as always, that was a great discussion. And thank you, everybody, for joining us again for another episode of the Flames Faceoff. One thing I did want to alert you to was a newsletter that we have coming out every day. It's called The Morning Skate, and every morning delivered to your inbox free of charge is a pretty entertaining newsletter that'll keep you up to date on all the news in the NHL. It's witty, quite funny. I think you'll enjoy it. But the thing that you have to do is be a subscriber. So if you're interested in that, Google the Morning Skate with the Hockey Writers, or you can go onto our site, the Hockey Writers, and up there on the left-hand side is a link where you can register. And in the meantime, to make sure you don't miss an episode of the Flames Faceoff, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Give us a follow on Twitter and Facebook, a like on YouTube and Facebook, and share this with your fellow Flames fans. So until next week, take care.